What's up, YouTube? Welcome back to another video. This one's going to be quite a bit different, but I think it's going to be actually really fun. I am joined today by Axel Beats, and we are going to be talking about Riftbound and Legends of Runeterra. So if you guys didn't know, these are both Riot-made games, and these are games that actually have some shared art. So me and Axel have been talking. We're actually also doing a video on his channel as well, where we're going to be doing a little bit of like competitive coaching and just teaching him how to play Riftbound. And he comes from a little bit more of the Runeterra background. So we're going to be talking about cards in both games today and kind of giving an evaluation on both cards without having as much of a background in each game. So firstly, I'll throw it over to Axel to introduce himself to you guys.
Hey, I'm Axel. I run a couple different channels on YouTube, Axel Beats, Out of Mana, and Uproar Media. But today we're going to be going over more TCG related stuff, so Out of Mana is the channel for that. I used to do Magic content on there, but we are switching to Riftbound with the new release. So yeah, looking forward to this.
All right, so for today's video, we are going to once again be evaluating these cards back and forth. I'll be looking at the Runeterra cards, giving the evaluation with Axel's like rundown of how the game kind of works. And Axel also has like that little bit of knowledge about how Riftbound works, so he'll be evaluating the Riftbound copycat, so to speak. And we're going to rate on a scale starting from weak to decent to mid to strong to broken. So that's how we're going to kind of just evaluate it. Want to get started with the Runeterra Tryndamere?
Starting out, we have every champion is basically represented in 3 cards. So I'll show you here. So the first Tryndamere I sent you there, you see in the top left corner is 8 mana. Top right shows that it's a Freljord card, and then its attack and health are 8 and 6. The nice part about Runeterra, a lot of cards are just like one line of text, which is great. Overwhelm is basically trample in Magic. If you hit something and you deal more damage than its health, the rest will go towards the player's health. But underneath that, you'll see that it has a level up requirement. So if you do that effect, it'll basically transform into its leveled up form, which you'll see is a 8 mana 9/9 with Overwhelm. The 3 icons are Overwhelm, Fearsome, which means they can't block it with cards that have less than 3 attack, and Tough, so it takes 1 less damage from all sources. So once one Tryndamere transforms, all of them in your deck do. You don't have to keep doing it for each copy. And if you have a Tryndamere on the field, any copies of him in your hand will become the champion spell. These are already spells that you can run in the deck. It's just you can effectively run an extra 3 copies as the champion. So you see Tryndamere's there is an 8 mana spell, which is super expensive, but it gives the unit 8 attack, 4 health, and is burst speed, so it happens immediately. So with trample is very good. I don't know about good, but it can be like game winning if you get it off. Yeah. It's still an 8 mana spell, you know? What are your thoughts on this set of cards here?
All right, so you mentioned that Freljord is like all about ramping, which like originally I would have held the fact that Tryndamere is an 8-drop against him, but you know, when you're ramping, you get there faster, so it's not as big of a deal. 8 attack and 6 HP, right? That's the lineup?
Yep.
Okay,
You need
so
him to die to flip over.
he's stronger than he is healthy, but when he dies, you get a benefit out of that. You know, in a lot of card games, they call that like a floater, which generally is pretty good. Trample also being good, and you mentioned that there's no summoning sickness in this game, right? So,
Correct.
yep. So being able to trample a blocker immediately also seems kind of good. And then when he dies, you get the trample, you get the fearsome, so he can't be blocked by 2 or less, and then you get the -1 damage protection, right? And then how does so in Riftbound, damage heals after combat. How does damage kind of work in Runeterra?
So damage will not be healed after combat or turn ends. It is permanent for all intents and purpose. I also mentioned that all champions get 1 attack and 1 health here. Tryndamere might be the only example, or one of the only examples where that's not the case. They actually get 3 health, which is really weird.
Okay, so he kind of breaks the formula a little bit. That's interesting. So maybe they're
Yeah.
kind of pushing him to be a little extra good, maybe. And then the spell, so burst speed, I know is got to be good because it's the fastest speed in the game.
Mhm.
8/4, like you said, kills just about anything. Although I'm kind of finding it hard to use hard to cast Tryndamere and the spell in one turn. I don't know how
You
like
would not be
relevant.
able to.
Yeah, so I don't know how relevant that might be or how much that might hold the cards back, but like if you have to kind of spend 2 turns to set it up, that might be a little bit tough. I think like, looking at these cards from like a fundamental TCG perspective, like the fact that it has an effect on death is generally pretty good. Like when a card floats into something and actually rewards you when your opponent kills it, that seems kind of good because your opponent's gonna lose where if they kill it, they get punished. If they don't kill it, it just keeps punching them in the face. So that seems kind of good. And then when you actually level it up, it gets stronger and it gets 3 keywords as opposed to 1.
Mhm.
And again, like the fact that it's 8 cost is kind of offset by the ramp a little bit. I don't know how crazy ramp is in Runeterra because like sometimes ramp is really OP and then you ramp things super quickly and just win the game too fast, or sometimes ramp is like in a weird spot in the meta where it's not fast enough. So the fact that this like fundamentally feels like a good card in a ramp deck, I would say like maybe somewhere between like mid to strong.
I'd say decent to mid is probably where this card sits. So, uh, you're right. It is very expensive, and that is kind of mitigated by ramp. But 8 mana just is a lot. The other thing is it doesn't do a whole lot. Like it is just a beat stick, and there are like 50. Oh, yeah, there's probably about 50 options that you could use instead of Tryndamere. Whereas you might want like a more interesting or more functional champion to actually build the deck around. So like there's been definitely periods where Trinimir's been totally fine. He's just a big guy that runs over things, and that's gonna win you games sometimes. But it's just there's not much to actually work with that makes him unique, and because of that, he ends up getting outshone by a lot of other options. But he is just like kind of he was from the first set, so it's just like the idea of like this is a big guy, commander, champion, whatever, and he's not meant to be flashy. It's just like he's fine. The other thing, uh, the having to kill him twice can be super annoying. The problem is that only affects the first Tryndamere that you kill, right? Like I said, when you level up a copy of a champion, all versions of them level up. So after you kill or you deal with the first set of Tryndamere, the next one already comes in leveled up, and he doesn't transform when he dies. He's like in that transformed state already, which is like he's a floater one time.
Gotcha. Knowing you to set one card, yeah, I mean power creep makes sense. I think one thing I probably overlooked was like, yeah, I guess he has 3 keywords, but I'm assuming cards we're gonna see in a little bit probably have like actual effect text. So that might be a
Yeah,
big deal.
effects tend to be more important than keywords. Yeah.
Gotcha. All right, cool. Want to take a look at the Riftbound version of the card?
So let's take a look here. We have Trinamere Barbarian is a 7 energy, 2 red power, 2 fury, for 8 might, which is technically above board, which is great. When I conquer after an attack, if you assign 5 or more excess damage to an enemy unit or to enemy units, you score 1 point. So this can be a final point, which I think is kind of cool. But I'm not super stoked on this card. Like it again, it's just the big meatball thing. In Riftbound, they come in tapped, which is kind of unfortunate because that means you have time to respond to this. But like I could see people maybe running one as like a top end for a deck in like Volibear or something. But yeah, I don't. I'm just not super sure. This seems maybe like again decent to mid area. Uh, yeah, I don't see this being super impactful, especially when you play it. It doesn't do anything, and for 7 energy, like it kind of needs to do something.
So I would agree with all your points except your final evaluation. I would actually call this card very, very weak. The reason I would say that is because, just to give a little bit of context for anyone who's new to Riftbound or to you as well, I'm not sure if you're aware of this. So, like, a few months ago when the game was being talked about and first revealed, they had revealed like the first half of set 1, and that was all we had for quite a while, probably like a good month or so. All we had was like the first half of set 1, and Tryndamere was in that first half, and I can't recall a single testing game that featured Tryndamere. There could have maybe been one Volibear list I saw one time in some obscure place that had like one copy of Tryndamere in it, but never have I played a game that Tryndamere was casted or that I wish I would have casted Tryndamere. And then when the rest of set 1 was revealed, like the last 70 to 100 or so cards were revealed, more of the same. Tryndamere was just not seeing play in any red deck. I think that's for a lot of reasons. For one, like a lot of red decks besides Volibear is like kind of the exception to the rule. Most red decks are playing much lower to the ground units because red is like the aggressive color, as it is in most card games. So Tryndamere doesn't really fit that mold super well. The fact that he costs 2 red power is a lot. Like when it comes to power costs, 2 is quite a lot. And if you're gonna cast a unit that has 2 power costs, it better do something on play, which Tryndamere doesn't really do.
Mm-hmm.
You are totally on point that like the rate, like getting 8 might for 7 costs is really nice. But and to add on to that, actually, like 6 might is sort of the sweet spot where if a unit is 6 might or less, it's very easy to remove, even in base. But 8
Mm-hmm.
might is a good spot where it might survive. But then you have the actual effect text of the card where when it's so specific, like it has to conquer after an attack, and then it has to specifically deal 5 or more excess damage to an enemy unit to score. So that means that like you have to either be
Any small
fighting,
things only.
yeah, you have to be fighting a 3 might unit or less, or you have to like already have spent resources dealing damage to a unit to then fight it with this and then deal that damage. So like scoring alternative points in Riftbound is kind of good in some aspects, but I would say this is definitely the weakest
Yeah.
card at doing it.
I just feel like something that costs 7 shouldn't need extra setup, you know?
Yeah, it has no immediate impact. Maybe in the future there'll be some ways to like sort of give it
Accelerate.
haste, but
Mhm.
or accelerate. Yeah, like there's some combinations of like red purple that could possibly do it, and maybe some combinations of like red orange that could do it. But I think it's gonna need a little bit more support before it can really get there.
Yeah, that makes sense. All right, you want to take a look at Annie down here?
Yes, let's do it. Okay,
Sure.
so I see what you sent me here. We're actually taking 3 different arts from well, I guess Riftbound's taking it from Runeterra, not the other way around. But
Yeah, we're
um,
the original. Okay.
fair enough. No argument from me. All right, so we have Annie. It's a 1-drop, which is good. Has 0 attack, 2 HP. On attack, I deal 2 to my blocker. Okay, so instead of like having 2 damage or 2 attack, it just deals 2 as an ability. Okay. If it's dead or gone, that's a really funny line of text there. It's reminding me of like
Dead or
dead and
gone.
gone. Yeah. um, I deal 2 to the enemy nexus instead. Okay, so essentially, if you kill your blocker, you just deal 2 direct damage and then level up. Um, okay, I gotta wrap my mind around the fact that this card is speaking directly to me. They do the same thing in Riftbound, but it's like this is like way more direct. Um,
Yeah.
okay,
It was a big like problem when the game first came out because like it's so differently phrased than any card game to that point where you're like,
right.
I've seen this. You're like, I the player or I the card. It's weird
True.
to
Yeah,
understand.
that's weird. Yeah, that's I didn't even think about that. I've seen you play 6 fast spells, slow spells, or skills. When I level up, create a Tibbers in hand. Okay. So I guess we need the context of the level up and the Tibbers. And there's
Yeah.
also the Annie spell here. So there's a
I
lot
also
going
sent
on with
the
Annie.
anti spell. Yeah. Let's start with the anti spell. I think that really wraps a lot of this together.
Okay. So Annie's disintegrate fast, pick a unit. Next time it takes 1 or more damage this round, kill it. Okay, so it's like for the most part a straight up kill spell. Like you cast this, you swing in the 1 cost Annie, and then like you kill anything. Is that right?
And just about anything yet.
Okay.
There's like some cards will have spell shield, which negates an effect, so that'll stop Annie or the spell. That can be a little bit tricky for her, but for the most part, if you have this, you're able to kill anything in front of her.
Okay. And then I should probably go on to the leveled up Annie, right?
Yep.
Okay. So she's leveled up on attack, deal 3 to a blocker and stun it. If it's dead or gone, I deal 3 to the enemy nexus instead. So it's pretty much the upgraded version of that. Although, just explain to me what stun does in this game.
So stun will take a unit out of combat, or it will prevent them from attacking if they're not in combat. So basically, just opens up one spot. In Runeterra, you're only able to have 6 units on the board at any time. So it, being able to remove one potential card from attacking or blocking in general is pretty strong. Hers takes it out of the combat only when they're defending her, but outside of that, stun can be pretty effective as a mechanic.
Okay. So a very just upgraded version of the first Annie, like deals a little bit more damage, has more HP, has the stun capability, and then let's see what Tibbers does. So Tibbers is a 6-drop. This is like the first kind of like expensive card in this series here.
Yep.
So it has the fearsome, so it can't be blocked by 2 or less, and then on play, stun an enemy unit of your choice, it seems like, then deal 2 to all stunned or damaged units. Okay, so it seems like you can maybe do some like mini board wipe shenanigans. But you also get to stun a unit to prevent it from blocking outright, right?
Yep.
Okay.
Uh, so you can use it as a like stop something from blocking you, which is great, or you can attack with Annie first. There is only one combat phase in this game, but you attack with Annie, they block it, the card gets damaged and stunned, and then you can drop Tibbers and either you can target something else, and then you're now adding on to the damage that Annie already added to them, so you can kind of deal 5 damage rather than the 3, and guarantee a setup for Tibbers. Or like you said, you could just stop something from blocking you. So it's pretty versatile, which is great.
So the one thing that's kind of there's 2 things that are kind of pulling me apart in this review of is like the Tibbers seems kind of expensive, where like the rest of the cards, like the Annies and the spell, seem like much lower cost. So I wonder how the synergy is there. But the spell specifically, like the disintegrate spell, says pick a unit. Next time it takes 1 or more damage, just kill it. So outside of like the spell shield thing we were talking about, like it seems like a pretty strong combination to kill like anything in the game.
Yep.
Again, outside of spell shield, I guess. So that's kind of leading me to believe it's very, very strong. And I think I'm gonna go out on a limb. I guess I don't know how hard it is to play 6 fast spells, slow spells, or skills.
Mhm.
But because of the ability to kill anything in the game, I want to go on a limb, and I could be wrong here, but I kind of want to go on a limb and say this was like in the broken tier.
Okay, so let's take a look at Annie Fiery. So this is a 5 energy, 1 fury card for 4 might, so it's a little bit understated. And this was part of the Proving Ground set, you said. Your spells and abilities deal 1 bonus damage. For each instance of of damage that they deal is increased by 1. Um, you want to go through the instance thing again?
The important thing to know about Annie's ability is like the specification of each instance of damage. So there are some spells in Riftbound that deal multiple instances of damage, like a Cathian Rain from Kaisa, for example, or her signature spell, actually deals 6 instances of 2 damage. So if you have Annie out and cast Cathian Rain, it's 6 instances of 3 damage in that case.
Pretty significant. So I think this is probably really strong just in general. Anything that like boosts damage tends to be pretty good. If you get 2 Annies out, that's it starts to scale up really quickly. Um, I'm not crazy about it costing 5. That's probably like the highest end that I could see a Kaisa deck running without knowing too much about how they actually structure. But I think just like in general, this is probably a fairly strong card. Um, Maybe like a 2 copy in a deck thing. Yeah, I'll lock in that it's just generally strong and effective at like making everything the deck already wants to do better.
Let me give you one more piece of context, that maybe would change your evaluation, maybe not. It's not meant to go one way or the other. So this is coming out in Proving Grounds, like you said. And do you know like what Riot or what the Riftbound team said about like their design intentions with Proving Grounds?
It's supposed to be accessible for either 4 players or that's kind of it, really.
not necessarily about the number of players it's meant to be played with, although it is like meant to be intro friendly for 4 player, but they specifically designed Proving Grounds to be intentionally weaker than Set 1 Origins. And the reason for that they said was because like they want this to be a good entry point for new players, and for that reason they wanted the power level to be a little bit lower just so people could like learn and pick up the game.
Sure.
So keep in mind it was intentionally designed to be weaker. However, the funniest part about that, I think you know at this point that like Master Yi is regarded as one of like the best decks in the game. At least at this
Yeah.
point, it made the finals of every single Chinese regional, and that also came out in Proving Grounds. So I say all that to say that like while their intention was to intentionally design Proving Grounds a little bit weaker, Master Yi came out of Proving Grounds. So does that alter your evaluation anymore?
I think I want to lock in that Annie is just another mistake that they made, and maybe she's higher power than they wanted her to be. I don't think she's like broken by any means, but like I I have trouble seeing this card as not being super strong. If anything, it'd be like the cost is slightly too high, but outside of that, I think it's just very good for that kind of deck in general.
So I am gonna probably go ahead and put this one in weak once again. So the reason I'm gonna do
Interesting.
that is because Annie is like a somewhat actually popular deck. The leader, the legend, is actually kind of strong in terms of value. Like at the end of every turn, you untap 2 runes, which just gives
Yeah.
you 2 mana to play with on your opponent's turn. However, the Annie decks that we see topping a lot of these grassroots events, we haven't seen Annie top one of the official Chinese regionals, but it does
Mhm.
top here and there in the grassroots events, and generally they're always playing the purple Annie as their chosen champion, which just says when you play it, pick up a spell from your trash. So that's a little bit more like
Yeah.
immediate value, whereas like the red Annie has to survive to apply its effect, right? And kind of like what we
Mhm.
talked about with Trinamir, a unit being 4 might in the base is a lot harder to protect and keep alive. So that's
Yeah.
one issue with the card. But I think the main reason why I would call it weak, besides the fact that it doesn't really see play in its own deck, is that there is actually a gear or a permanent sort of thing version of this card
The
in set one.
Ravenborn Tome, right?
Yeah, Ravenborn Tome. So it's a
Yeah.
gear that costs 3 with no power cost, so it costs less than this card, and actually has the same exact effect, and that doesn't see play either. So yeah, and then going back to like Kaisa, I wasn't like intentionally trying to misdirect you. I was just kind of giving you an example of like the biggest application of this card. But
Yeah.
Kaisa, even with the Cathian Rain, doesn't play this card where it could seemingly be like insane. To be honest, if you were gonna play a card that had this effect, the Ravenborn Tome is probably better because it's harder to kill gears than it is to kill units, and
Sure.
it's a lower investment. So I would say this is probably another weak one.
You know what's funny? I didn't even consider her for the Annie deck. In my head, I'm like, no, this is just a Kaisa card. That makes sense though. I can see that. I guess. I didn't. I had seen like Ravenborn Tome when I'm using it to make a video, but I haven't actually like considered it for decks. So I could totally understand how that would replace this, and then the fact that it doesn't make the cut, kind of rough, but it's fine. All right, so our next set of cards is going to be Teemo though, famously a bastard. So let's start with the original Teemo here. This is a first multi-region card we're taking a look at for both Piltover and Bandle City. You want to take a look here?
Yeah, so this art's a little bit wonky. I'm kind of glad this one didn't make its way into Riftbound. But
We just got an alt art that I think is also in Riftbound. I can't remember though.
okay. So we have another one drop here. And so like I know like the regions are sort of like the colors of the identities. Would you say this is like I don't know, like a dual color or a multicolor card?
Yeah. So Teemo is Piltover and Vandal City here. Piltover is a lot of like spot removal spells like ping for 2, ping for 1, whatever. A lot of draw as well, and they tend to generate cards a little bit. Um, and Bandle City is a lot of generation and card draw as well. So he actually fits in really well with both themes. It's kind of like one of the better examples of the cards. But yeah, he your deck can only contain 2 regions typically, so he does kind of force you to play within those. I should clarify there the two region things. If you're only putting Piltover cards in the deck, he doesn't count for Vandal City. So you can play Piltover and like another thing, or Vandal City and another thing. But you're kind of he has access to both, to either.
Okay, but I mean, draw power and removal sounds kind of good.
Yeah.
Now, I have heard of this guy putting mushrooms in the opponent's deck. Is that this exact
Yes.
Teemo?
Yes. This is the mushroom deck.
Gotcha. So Nexus Strike. I'm assuming that's when you deal direct damage.
Yep.
When you deal direct damage, plant 5 poison puff caps in the enemy deck, and then level up if you've done this effect 3 times essentially, and then maybe there are other main deck cards that do it as well. I don't really know, but what does Elusive do?
So elusive means he can only be blocked by other elusive units. And they
Okay.
added a mechanic later called True Sight, but it's rare.
And then what is the leveled up version that we're
So
looking at?
so I should clarify as well. The poison puff cap is a mushroom that you'll plant in a random card in the opponent's deck. When they draw that card, they will take 1 damage, or however many mushrooms happen to be on that card. So it can be more than 1 per card. Sometimes you'll get, 5 or 20 if you're doing particularly well, and might just lose on the spot.
So
Other
it
times
puts
you might not.
so
Sorry, go ahead.
it puts the mushroom in the deck, but the mushroom can have multiple mushrooms on it. Am I getting that right?
It will choose a card at complete random and put a mushroom on it. If it already has a mushroom, it'll just
Ah,
add another one.
I see. So it doesn't add a card to the deck. It puts mushrooms on existing cards in the deck.
Yes.
I got it. I got it. Okay.
Yep. So let's take a look at Teemo's spell here. Also 1 drop, which is nice.
All right. Teemo's Mushroom Cloud. We have Burst, which is the highest spell speed. And then plant 5 poison puff caps in the enemy deck and then create a Teemo in your deck. Okay, so this just like aids with the whole thing of like getting Teemo leveled up and putting more puff caps in. So if you see like a Teemo and 1 copy of the spell, you're already 2/3 of the way there to leveling up, right?
Yep. Yep. There's other cards that'll also generate Mushroom Cloud. There's other cards that when they hit anything will put mushrooms in the deck, or when you cast a spell, you'll put 3 mushrooms in the enemy deck. So like there's a foundation there to kind of build up there.
Okay.
And then this is his level up.
Okay, there's the Riftbound
There's
art.
the art.
All right, so he's another 1 drop. He is a 2/2, and then he's still got Elusive, and
Mhm.
then Nexus Strike. Double the poison puff caps in the enemy deck, plants 5 minimum. So is that meaning like if there's 10 puff caps in the deck, it turns it to 20,
Correct.
but if there's 0, it plants 5?
Yeah, I think they added the plants 5 minimum recently, because I don't think it used to be like that. But you're doubling anything that's in there. So
Okay, so
if
at
they
one
have,
point it used to double 0, meaning it added 0.
I think so. I'm not sure, but I don't remember. I might be like Mandela affecting the plants 5 minimum.
Okay. Because that would be funny, because that would actually be a pretty rough situation to have the card if you somehow didn't have any mushrooms in your opponent's deck. I assume that's
If he's
probably a rare instance.
Yeah, if he's transformed and they have nothing in your deck, something's gone very wrong. So I don't think that's ever come up even.
The game probably bugged or something.
Well, I guess to be fair, maybe they like drew all 5 of them card or something and just
Okay.
had timing. But yeah,
Side question
uh,
that I just thought of. Was there a lot
sure.
of bugs in Runeterra, or is that was it pretty bug free in terms of like card effects resolving correctly and stuff like that?
There's definitely a couple bugs that showed up from time to time. Overall, I think they were pretty good. I can't think of like any huge ones that really like ruined the game. So they were pretty good about it. And like even buffs or nerfs, like they paid a lot of attention to the game for anything that needed to happen. So if there was anything, it was resolved really quickly.
Cool. Any other preliminary info I should know before I evaluate this card?
I think that should be good. What are you feeling on?
So, again, not knowing anything about how to play this game, I have heard a lot about this card. Like everyone was like, "Oh, this card's so damn broken. It's so annoying." So that already kind of like shapes my perspective of this card a little bit. However, I am gonna chalk that up a little bit to just like this card being more like annoying than good. Like I'm sure it was at some level good, but I think probably all the stuff I heard about it being annoying and being quote unquote OP was probably more just like player frustration over a frustrating mechanic, more so than like um the actual strength of the card. Like I'm sure people dying to like being at 5 life and drawing 5 mushrooms is not a very great play experience, so I totally get that.
Depends which side you're on.
Yeah, yeah, true, true. If you're Teemo, you're like, jumping for joy over that. So
Oh
like
yeah.
if I just went off what I heard people say about the card, I would put it in broken, but like balancing for the idea that like this thing was probably just bitched about a little bit more than maybe it actually deserved, I think I would probably I feel like mid might be a little too low. I think I'll put it in strong. I think I'll put it in strong, not quite broken though.
Uh, I'd probably go mid is probably correct. Uh, Maybe leaning towards strong, but so Timo is he's got like a decent amount of support over the years, and like you can definitely cheese out some crazy games or really high roll. The problem with him is like a lot of the times your play pattern is out of your own control. Whether your opponent draws a card that has 1 mushroom on it, 50 mushrooms on it, or 0, it's completely random, which is a problem. There's been a lot of games where I'm just like, he has 80 mushrooms in his deck. I just need him to draw 2, and then his turn starts. He draws a card, and nothing happens. And I'm like, oh, I'm dead. Cool. Uh, the reverse has happened, obviously. Like it's fine. The other problem with Timo is that he has 1 health when you first play him, and even if you evolve him or level him up, he's at 2, which means just about anything removes him. Like they sneeze in his direction, he's gone. And you really do need that. Yes, uh, and you really do need him to like get that double effect to get the game going. So like he's a really good example of a card that can high roll and feel ridiculous or go completely wrong and you're not doing anything. That said, I've played an unhealthy amount of this card. He's so fun.
Gotcha. You strike me like a Teemo player, although I gotta say I'd probably play this deck too because I like Teemo and Riftbound, so there's that going for it too. Random question as well: does Annie's
Sure.
ability get around elusive? The ability to like on attack deal 2 to the blocker.
So you're not choosing your attackers in or your blockers in Runeterra. So you'll basically say I'm attacking with these 3 people, and your opponent gets to choose who they block with how.
Okay, but in the hypothetical scenario, if they did block Teemo or block Annie with Teemo, does the ability
It
get
would.
around elusive?
Yep.
Okay,
Yeah, because you're not actually elusive. Only triggers when the blockers are being chosen. Outside of that, it doesn't really apply for anything.
gotcha, gotcha. Okay, cool. So let's take a look now at the Riftbound version of this Teemo.
All right. This is a 2 and a mind, and it's a 2 might unit, so real small again. I'm hoping they do something with these like tags that they actually matter, like the Vandal City, the Yordle, the Teemo stuff, because I really like typal synergy decks in most games. Uh, so we have Teemo Strategist. This card can hide for any color of power and flip over for 0. When I defend or I'm played from hidden, reveal the top 5 cards of your main deck, deal 1 damage to an enemy unit here for each card with hidden, and then recycle them. It's kind of the reverse of the mushrooms, actually, which is really weird.
Yeah, you actually get to
Um,
choose where you apply your mushrooms this time. Let me talk about this card for 1 second, just because it actually was errated. So I just want
okay.
to give you the full explanation of what it does. This is actually the old text. I don't know. There's no official art with like the new text. So what they did was they removed the part that says when I'm played from hidden, because now it's just understood that like when a card is played from hidden, it can only be defending. Like there's no way to offensively play a hidden card.
Oh,
So that's one thing that doesn't really matter as much. The other thing that does matter though is that originally before the errata, this card could spread its damage. So you could target up to 5 units, and then based on how many hidden cards you revealed, you could deal as much damage as you wanted to all 5 of your targets. Now, post errata, to my understanding, you have to choose 1 unit and deal all the damage to that unit. So yeah, that's important to know. Is like you can only really damage 1 unit with it now.
that's interesting. I could see how this would be read either way. Okay. Yeah. It's really funny that this you're like worried about your own deck rather than your opponent's. It's very interesting. But I think this card's probably Like I like that you have all the control of how many hidden cards you put in the deck. I'm not sure how many hidden cards there are though in Riftbound. Is there like a good amount? Because the colors I've looked at so far, like orange and yellow, you're not there's not a ton of them, right?
What I would say is, so the Teemo Legend, the whole deck revolves around hiddens, right? Now
Yeah,
how many you play in the deck is a whole different thing, but between blue and purple, they've definitely made it to where you could play like you could play at most probably half or slightly more than half your deck as hidden cards. Would you actually play that in like a sound competitive
yeah.
build? That's like a different question, but you could if you wanted to play up to like 20 hidden cards.
So if you're forcing it, you have a 50-50 chance. You're probably not forcing it. So like we'll say 30% chance. I think this would be very. I think it's probably the exact same spot that I would put the Runeterra one, where it's like if it happens, that's great. You're high rolling and that's fantastic. But otherwise, like you're just kind of struggling to really do anything if you're not popping it. So maybe mid, weak to mid, or decent to mid, yeah.
Decent to mid, okay. So I would say you're not too far off. I would say mid is probably fair, like maybe mid to strong. The reason I say that is because Teemo is one of the very few decks that have actually topped the Chinese regional circuit at top 8. I think out of all the leaders in the game, only 5 of them have top 8'd. So it's one of those 5, right? If I'm getting my
Okay.
count correct. So for that reason, that's a good showing. This card in particular is somewhat difficult to deal with, right? So the might is low, which means it's theoretically easy to attack into, but anytime you attack into it, you're proccing its effect, which, like, depending on the way your deck is built, that could just like snipe a 5-drop or less, right? Or a 5 might unit or
Yeah.
less potentially. Like you said, that's probably not always going to happen. You're more so likely trading with like maybe 2 might units. But there's another synergy in the deck with a Nocturne card that they printed where, like, if Nocturne just specifically says if he's revealed off top of the deck, you can play him. So this card can
That's kind of
randomly
cool.
turn into an extra 4 might, which is pretty strong. And
Yep.
then in the Teemo deck as well, you're probably hiding something next to this card as well. So in the context of the whole deck, I would say, like, it's pretty good. I really like the Teemo deck. I think it's fun. I think it's also pretty strong. This card alone, I think mid to strong, maybe closer to mid is probably pretty accurate. And then I think
Okay.
it's gonna get better as time goes on and like
Yeah,
we
the
get
more
more hidden
hidden.
cards.
Let's do our first non-champion card on my end. And I chose this one because they brought it over in a weird way to Riftbound. So it's actually two cards on my end for your one. So this is the Citrus Courier and the Brazen Buccaneer, which if you look to Riftbound, we have the art for Citrus Courier on a card called Brazen Buccaneer.
Yeah, that's pretty funny. Wow, I'm gonna look at this card completely differently now forever.
Yeah.
Um,
So if you want to take a look at Citrus Courier, this is a Bilgewater card.
yeah,
They both are actually.
alrighty. So, real quick, what's the identity of like Bilgewater?
So Bilgewater has a couple different mechanics, but a lot of their stuff will what's called plunder, which you see on both of these cards. Basically, if you've dealt damage to the opponent's health this turn, like their Nexus, uh, that effect will activate. They have a lot of cards that are like um, 0 mana, deal 1 damage to the enemy Nexus, or deal 1 damage to 3 targets randomly. So it's a lot of like ping damage that they're trying to hit the Nexus with to trigger these plunder effects.
So then, question about plunder. So is plunder like the activation condition, meaning like, okay, if
Yes.
Citrus Courier's on the board, your opponent takes a damage, this activates.
It's when you play the card.
Okay, so when you play the card after you've dealt damage.
Correct.
Got it. Okay, so it's almost like Legion, where like Legion is like play a card and then
Yeah,
all your Legion effects are live. So Plunder is like
exactly.
after you've dealt the damage, all your Plunder effects are live.
Correct.
Got it. Cool. All right, so then for Citrus Courier, funnily his stats are pretty close to Brazen Buccaneer in Riftbound.
Yeah.
6 drop, and then 4 attack, 5 HP, and then heal allies and your Nexus by 3, and then rally. So what does rally do?
So rally gives you the attack token. So I mentioned each turn is made up that one player is allowed to attack. This will let you get one on your opponent's turn or get a second one on your own turn.
Is that sound? Is that as broken as it sounds? Where like you're getting an extra turn almost?
It can be, depending on the
Okay,
situation.
okay. Should I take a look at Brazen Buccaneer before I evaluate Courier, or
Uh, let me know your thoughts on Courier first. They're pretty separate cards, I guess.
okay, okay. So I mean, like Rally sounds kind of broken. I mean, if you're saying like the turns are shared, but like the battle phase is kind of like the main differentiator, and then you can get so like if you rally and it's your opponent's attack token, do you just outright end their ability to attack for that turn cycle?
Nope, you just both get the ability to attack that turn.
Oh, okay. So that's a little less broken then. Okay.
Yes, and you can choose to. Well, I guess they would have the first choice because after you play this card, they can choose to make their discretionary action. They
Hmm.
might lead that into their own battle phase, or if they play another card, then you might lead with your own battle phase after that. So it's figuring out when to attack when you both have rally is very strange.
Okay. So knowing that Rally's a little less broken than I thought it was, this thing is definitely kind of understated, right? Like paying 6 for 4 damage, but also like how valuable is healing in the game, right? Like it's very different than Riftbound, where like Riftbound damage heals pretty easily.
Mhm.
In Runeterra, you have to manually heal things. It seems like healing for
Um,
3 seems okay.
for reference, I'm going to show you a card from Demacia. This was kind of the standard for a rally effect. It used to be 3 mana. They had to nerf it to, but it's a slow spell, which means that your opponent gets to respond to it like however they want. They get a full action afterwards. Um, but all it did was 4 mana rally.
Okay,
So
and
this
this
is
card had
two
to be
mana
nerfed.
more. Yes.
Okay, so maybe Rally is pretty broken then. Okay. So the fact that it rallies, it costs 6, but like I think that's
Yeah.
probably fine-ish. And then the healing part, I mean the healing just feels like icing on the cake, where it's just like it's nice to have additionally, but it's not the main purpose of the card.
Yep.
Um I'm gonna go out on another limb, and I'm gonna go with broken.
Okay, so there is one other noticeable difference between Citrus Courier and the spell I sent, and that's the spell is a spell. Remember, I said you can store 3 mana for rally for spell effects. It is like inherently much more expensive in comparison than it actually looks, but you're right that the rally part's the important part. The heal is not super big. I'd say this is probably like a mid to strong card. It was like fine. It'd be kind of the top end for the deck, but it didn't actually have much presence. And it was kind of a brick in your hand if you didn't have a plunder effect. But it could be like this would facilitate a finisher. It didn't go in like every Bilgewater deck by any means, but the ones that wanted it would definitely slot it in. Like it was just a good rounding out piece, I guess. Yeah, it's not very common in Bilgewater, so it stood as like a unique effect for that. Um, but yeah, that's definitely more of a Demacia keyword. And then we have Brazen Buccaneer, if you want to take a look at that one. Brash is they can't block it unless they have 3 or more health. So it's like Fearsome, but the other side.
Gotcha, gotcha. So it can't be blocked by big guys, which in theory seems kind of good because you can like sneak around things and not worry about like
Uh, can
running
only
in.
be blocked by big guys.
Oh, Brash
Big
can
health.
only be blocked by big guys. Okay, okay. Gotcha, gotcha, gotcha. Okay. And then plunder. So if you've dealt damage, summon a random 1 cost follower. Oh, okay, I've heard of this too. Like you can literally just summon random units from your deck. Is that what I'm
Yep.
understanding from this?
Yeah, it's a nice part of digital card games.
So
So the
okay,
follower wouldn't be from your deck. It could just be any one cost card.
in the entire game,
I yeah, I believe it's anything's. It can't be a champion, but any non-champion unit.
would it have to be within the colors of your deck?
No,
Wow. Okay. So like
which might actually make that effect worse because you left controllable, but you can high roll.
Okay, so and then you get whatever effect text is on that card as well, I'm assuming, if any.
Yep. Yep.
Okay, so super high roll card, but like, oh man, I mean, like the rate is good. Like it's a 3/3. It's only got 2 HP, but like, who cares? Seems like it's more of an aggressive card. I mean, getting an extra attacker seems good. The fact that like you have literally no control over what it is seems a little bit less good. Um, maybe there's a world where like you want the extra follower just to block on the next turn.
Sure.
Because like if you can't control it being a good attacker, I mean, I guess it depends on the board state. Like if your opponent has an open nexus, like sure you get in with 2 attacks for free, and then like if they don't have an open nexus, then like you summon a blocker. I I'll go with strong. I think even though you can't control the follower you get, I think like in the hands of a good player, knowing the board state, getting that extra resource is probably good. So I'll go with strong.
I would probably go on the weaker end here. So it's like not terrible, terrible, but I think it has like a real identity crisis. So you want it to be a aggressive card, obviously, because you're making another follower with low stats, whatever. You're just flooding the board. But typically, like if you're getting a plunder effect, you've maybe already attacked that turn. So now you can't attack again, but you have the extra units that you want to attack with. It's like that's kind of awkward. Making an extra blocker that can be nice, but it doesn't always line up with the aggressive way that you want to play the deck. It's not terrible, but I don't know. It just doesn't really. It's a bit incoherent. We have the Citrus Buccaneer on your end. Is a 6 energy, 5 might in Fury. Bilgewater Pirate. I don't think we have Pirate Synergy yet, do we? Waiting for the One Piece deck. So as you play me, you can discard a card as an additional cost, and if you do, reduce my cost by 2. So I learned pretty hard that reducing costs can be a problem when I played against you. That was annoying. But I don't think this is as good as the one you were playing for in order. Cruel Patron, thank you. I definitely don't think it's as good as Cruel Patron, but I know that this works with like the Jinx deck for fuel and discard. Might be nice just to like drop this as like a early beater in that deck. I'm not sure what the rest of that deck looks like though. Even 4 might be too high end for it.
I would say Jinx is probably one of the least solved decks in the format right now, and I think there are like a lot of cool ways you can build Jinx that are all like have some sort of different competitive niche. So that doesn't
Yeah.
really answer your question, but I think there could be a Jinx deck that could play this card reasonably.
Yeah. I don't think it really has a home outside of Jinx, but in that deck it might be like good just to help you swarm the field early and enable other effects. It's probably like an okay utility option. I don't think it's like broken by any means, but it's probably like fine overall. Decent to mid. I don't think it'd be on the strong end though.
I think you got a very accurate description there. What I will say, I think this card is very cool because it synergizes with many decks well. So, for example, this card is really good synergy with Volibear because it's a 5 might unit, doesn't have power
Ooh,
cost, so it literally ramps you 1 without costing you 1. And you do have the option of making it cost less, so like it can be an early game play. However, like discarding a card to play this is going to be kind of rough on your hand economy. And
yeah.
that's where the Jinx part comes in, right? Like the discard can proc certain abilities. Like there's a unit that says when you discard it, you can just play it. So there's synergies with multiple different decks with this card, which I think are cool. However, I think your assessment is pretty spot on because like it's not a star in any of the decks that it might be played in, and it's not a staple in any of those decks either. Like
Mhm.
it's an option you can go for, but I think the cost on card economy outside of Jinx is a little bit too demanding, and then inside of Jinx, like you said, it's a little bit costly, and
Yeah.
you have more efficient ways to pitch your cards. So I think you're pretty on the money. I'd probably go with like decent because it is at least playable. I wouldn't say like outright weak and unplayable, but
Next up we have Lee Sin. Oh, Lee Sin. This is an Ionia card. Ionia is a lot of spell casting. They tend to have a lot of Defy in Riftbound is comes from Ionia. Uh, like it's counter spells, ways to interact with your opponent's stuff. Just it's very manipulative in that way. So if you want to take a look at Lee Sin here,
Alrighty. So we have a 5-drop. We have 3 attack, 5 HP, right?
yep,
When you play a spell, give me Challenger. All right, what does Challenger do?
Challenger means that you can choose who blocks it.
Okay. And then if you play another, give me Barrier. What does that do?
Block 1 instance of damage.
Okay. And then if you've played 10 spells, level them up. So you're saying Ionia is like the spell slinging identity,
Yes.
so that doesn't seem too difficult to achieve. And then you can pick
Uh,
his blocker, which seems really good. Like you can just pick off certain units, and then
mhm.
blocking spell damage also seems like good utility. Um, yeah, okay,
So keep in mind a lot of Ionia spells are defensive as well. So you're already making him hard to deal with because of barrier. So if you're adding in the defensive spells on top of that, he can be kind of tricky in that way.
okay.
This is his leveled up form.
Let's see here.
Something else to notice. The level up for this one doesn't say I've seen you play 10 spells. It says you've played 10 spells. So he doesn't have to be on the board when you're making that requirement.
Ah, okay. That definitely seems relevant. Okay.
Yes.
All right. So for the level up, we have a 4/6. When you play a spell, give me Challenger. If you play another, give me Barrier. And then I Dragon's Rage. That's just a funny
So
way of wording that.
yeah.
So what does he? What? How does one Dragon Rage?
So Dragon Rage is his spell card that's associated with him. This is a weird card to understand for just how you read it. So the card says an ally kicks an enemy into the nexus, striking both. If the enemy survives, recall it. That makes no sense unless you know what's happening. It's kind of
Yeah,
annoying.
I'm gonna need
Basically,
the explain it like I'm 5.
yeah. So there's a funny animation. That's the whole kicking thing. But what it means on the surface is just Lee Sin deals 4 damage to an enemy and the enemy nexus. If the enemy lives that, then they go back to the other. Then they go back to the other player's hand. So you can
Okay.
bounce a card, and you're dealing 4 to the enemy nexus at the very least. Um, Sometimes you kill the card.
And you don't have to cast the 7 because of Lee Sin's ability. Is that right?
Yes. So whoever he challenges, you
Uh
have
huh.
to, at the very least, bounce back to hand, maybe kill.
And you have to have this spell in your hand to do that.
Nope. It's just when he attacks.
Okay, so you don't have to pay the 7, and you don't have to have the card in your hand.
Correct.
All right. I mean, this could be like the most misleading thing in the world, but like, I mean, considering the fact that for the other ones you have to have the spells, you have to have these cards in combination, and you have to pay the unit and the spell on top, and this is just a 0 cost spell that also like sets your opponent's tempo back, and you get to pick what's blocking it. I'm gonna go ahead and say broken, man. Tell me why it's not broken.
No, this is a bastard card. Like this was such a huge problem. There's a couple things in particular. Ionia has a lot of burst spells as well. So like you can set up his abilities without actually giving your opponent a chance to respond to them. And then Karma is someone who he gets paired with a lot. Her leveled up ability says any card you or any spell you play is cast twice, which will proc his whole thing. So it's just there's a lot going for him that's really hard to interact with, and he has all the defensive spells on top of that, and he can choose his defender, and that defender doesn't even hit him back. And if they did, you have barrier anyways. It's just like a mountain of little problems that are really frustrating to deal with. And like this card, they had to balance a lot when it first came out as well.
Yeah, I mean, from what I've learned about the game over the course of this video, like, and then seeing him just cheat all of that, yeah, that was a pretty
Mm-hmm.
clear indicator that he's like Omega busted.
Yeah,
Um,
he's a bit of a bastard.
all right, let's go ahead and take a look at the Green Lee Sin from Riftbound. Want to give that a read?
Lee Sin Ascetic. 5 in calm power, 5 might, shield, +1 while he's defending. and you could tap him to buff him. He could have any number of buffs. That's kind of cool. You saw I like to play the set deck a little bit, so the multiple buffs is kind of fun. I like that he can give it to himself. I do like that he can buff himself. I don't like that it's on a tap ability. That makes it a little bit more awkward. Although I guess if he's already on a battlefield, like you can just start stacking him there. But then he's more vulnerable because he's on a battlefield. Does Calm have a lot of buff support? I've only looked at the order and thing.
As
Yeah,
far as buffs in particular, Lee Sin is a orange green deck. So you have all the
okay.
orange buff cards that you probably have seen with set, like Pit Rookie, Kinku
Yeah,
Monk,
the
stuff like
three
that.
or the four of
There
them.
are also some green cards that grant buffs, but it's more of like the orange cards, as well as the Lee Sin Legend. The Legend says tap the Legend, tap a rune, give a unit a buff.
So that has a lot going for it there. He is kind of just a meatball though. I'll lead towards strong. I don't know if I would play like more than two of him even in a deck though. But I think you can definitely get him fairly large. I'm just worried that like one spell getting rid of him could be a problem. Yeah, you lose a lot of investment that way.
So I would go maybe between like decent and mid. The reason I say that is
Mm,
because I mean like you're on the money, right? Like this is the one, well, maybe not the one, but this is like the predominant protect the castle card in Riftbound right now.
yeah.
And when I say predominant, I don't mean like it's taking the meta by storm. I just mean like when people want to play a protect the castle deck, they look at this Lee Sin strategy. The cool thing is like you can play him as your chosen champion, and for that reason, like you said, you might not even have to play more than one copy of him because you can
Mhm.
take him from your chosen champ area whenever you want. The issue is though, you got to get him really going in terms of like get him multiple buffs before he's out of the
Yeah.
range of a lot of popular kill spells. But then there's some kill spells that don't even care about might. So you are in green. You do have access to like Defy and Windwall, which is the only color in the game that can actually stop and counter spells.
Hmm.
Um, but you're investing so much into this guy, like you're buffing him with maybe your legend, and you're trying to buff him with units like Pit Rookie, and then you got to leave mana open to try and counter the spells that can kill him. So it's a very Herculean task to try to actually like get this guy to survive. Um, Funnily enough, too, the fact that he's a 5-drop, it raises the question like, okay, if you play this deck with this particular strategy, do you want to go second? Do you want to opt to go
Mm,
second and like get to 5 runes because on your first turn going second you get 3 runes, but you're giving your opponent 3 chances to kill this card or like 3 turns worth of momentum to kill this card, as opposed
yeah.
to like where if you go first, you're not gonna play him until turn 3, and it's just super awkward. It's super awkward
And
for that
even then,
reason.
he can't like tap himself. And
Right.
if you
That's
want
very
him to move, then he can't tap himself.
Yeah, the turn you play him, he can't tap himself. If you ever want to move him, it's a very awkward card. So that's why I'd probably go like decent because I have seen games against like Kaisa where
Hmm.
if they don't draw the base removal and like this guy gets to live 3 turns, they just can't kill him at all, and
Yeah.
he's a menace. But um, things kind of have to
I
go
think in
right.
my head, I saw buff. I'm like, those are the cards I like.
Yeah,
'Cause all the parts were in my. I'm like, he's too resource dependent, but I let the blinders get to me.
dude,
Uh,
don't get me wrong. There are many good buff cards in this game, and I would like for this to be one of them. But it probably just needs a little bit more support in the
yeah,
future.
he's cool though. I like him at the very least, like thematically.
Yeah, I like the Lee Sin deck a
Uh,
lot, and there's other ways you can build it, but this one might be a tough way to do it.
all right. Let's take a look at our first actual spell for Runeterra. Uh, Very expensive one in Demacia, which is all like combat tricks, barriers, challenger, that kind of stuff. So this is Unyielding Spirit.
All
I'll
right,
take a look.
we've got a direct name and art copy, but a very different
Yep.
a very different cost. So this is an 8-drop at fast speed, and then grants an ally I can't take damage or die. Okay, so the effect is pretty similar to the one in Riftbound.
Yep.
Um, is there anything like a side deck in Runeterra, or not really?
No.
Okay, so you're choosing to main deck this card for like a meta call, essentially. I can't take damage or die. Does that kind of universally protect from spells as well as battle damage?
Yep,
Okay.
I think
Are there any sorts of like
uh,
spell removal that would like banish, or that's not really a
there's a
thing?
couple transform effects. There might be like a few really niche considerations, but like in general, if you have this, it's going to be there for the rest of the game.
Okay. Um, I'm assuming this doesn't protect from bouncing back to hand, right?
Correct.
Okay, so there is still counterplay to this card.
That's mostly going to be if you're going against Ionia. That's like Yasuo's thing is a lot back to.
Okay. Another question. So we talked about the three floated mana, right?
Mm-hmm.
Can can I pay 5 of my normal mana and the 3 floated mana for this card?
Yep.
Okay, so I can do that in like a sort of like combination. Okay. So that means I can play like a 5 drop and then I can pay 5 for this and then pay my 3 floated. Um, in my head, this feels too expensive. Like it'll never work on a turn. It'll almost never work on a turn where you want to like cast a unit and have this card for defensive purposes. Like that feels like it would usually never work. We just saw how like Lee Sin, spits in the face of this card, so like that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't seem so good. I'm gonna go ahead and I feel like there might be like super niche scenarios where it's playable. I'll go with decent to weak.
This card is super bad, but I love playing with it. Um, so in particular, there's like two specific decks I really liked playing this in. Firstly is a Tarek deck, and Tarek basically says when he attacks, the card to his right gets whatever spell you played on him on them as well. So you can kind of like double dip on this effect and start making like your whole field immortal, and that's very funny. The other one is a Fiora deck, and Fiora is our Exodia card. So if she can kill 4 other units, you win the game. The problem is she's a 3/3. So if you can make her immortal, that's pretty okay. But it's very much like a cheesy meme card for the most part. I can't think of too many times I've ever seen it be in a meta deck. But yeah, you're pretty much dead on there. This is a reaction spell. Prevent all spell and ability damage this turn. Kind of funny that that's like a global thing and not for a specific unit. You can see this probably being like a fantastic tech card into like Annie and Kaisa. Jinx as well. So I'd imagine that most body decks would probably run at least one, maybe two of these. It's probably a staple, at the very least, like a side deck staple. It's just like an all around good defensive card, I think. It's interesting that it doesn't block combat damage as well, since body is like a very physical attacking kind of color. So all your stuff should still be on the table, while all the opponent's stuff might potentially be taken off. Yeah, I think just like a very, very strong card in general.
I think I would agree. I don't think I would necessarily call it broken because there's some matchups where it doesn't really do anything. But
Mirror
yeah,
match is nothing.
yeah. So well, it's you can use it against challenge, I guess, but like I don't think you're gonna side this card in against orange for challenge. But
Yeah.
yes. So this card definitely side deck staple, especially because Kaisa is one of the strongest decks in the game, if not the strongest deck in the game, and Kaisa's all about spell and ability damage. There
Mm.
are some, like yellow, for example, has a lot of kill spells, but they don't deal damage or care about might. So,
Yeah, yeah.
like against yellow, it wouldn't be so good. But it is a very strong counter to decks like Kaisa and red that does a lot of um, damage based removal. So yeah, very much on the money. Um, three of 2 to 3 of side deck staple in most of your orange decks.
I do like seeing a pet card that was terrible be useful. That's nice.
There you go. Gonna be a great thing for your transition over to Riftbound.
Speaking of pet cards, we got the boy Commander Ledros. So Shadow Isles, they are a lot of kill effects, a lot of sacrifice your own things to do something, a lot of resurrect effects. Um, they have like drain things, so you'll deal like 3 damage to an opponent and you heal 3 health for your Nexus. A lot of effects like that. So they're very control-y. They build advantage by kind of making small sacrifices that give you incremental growth. They're probably like their most iconic spell is 2 mana, sacrifice a unit, draw 2 cards. It's like that's kind of their whole theme almost.
So this is like the graveyard deck or
Yeah.
graveyard color, basically. Okay. So we got the fearsome. We know what that does. Can't be chump blocked. I like that.
Yep.
On play, deal damage to the enemy nexus equal to half its health. Wait, what? Deal. So if the nexus is at 30, you deal 15.
Correct.
That's pretty crazy. And then okay, tell me if I'm wrong. I'm assuming last breath is like when this card would die, return it to the hand instead.
Yep.
Okay. I mean, it takes your whole turn, but like nuking half of the nexus, I mean, seems pretty good. Like, um, I guess I don't know what the setup to this card looks like what the early turns of this deck would look like. Um, the HP almost doesn't matter because it seems like you want it to come back to your hand and then replay it.
Almost better that it's low.
Right, because it's gonna die, come back to hand. The on play is then gonna be usable
Mm-hmm.
again. In Runeterra, are there like search cards? Like, can you search this card, or you have to hard draw it?
Mm, there's not really, but Shadow Isles has a lot of death, like draw effects.
Man, I feel like this could be a misleading type of card because like it feels like it has a very devastating effect. I just don't know like what the lead up to this payoff is, and like technically every time you cast him, it's like the value is less because the first time you cast it, it might do 15 damage to the Nexus, and then after that, it does what 8 damage to the Nexus, and then 4. I mean, how many times are you gonna recast this thing if it takes your entire turn?
Mhm.
Um, Here's a random question: Is it popular in Shadow Isles or the color that you pair with this to like stop a block? Like
What do you
stop
mean?
whatever's blocking Ledros on its attack.
Uh, they kind of have to because he has 10 attack. 'Cause,
Well,
like
I mean
once you
like
drop them down to 15, that brings them down to 5. Then if they don't,
well no, right. So what I mean is like so he can't be chump block with Fearsome already, but is there like some sort of like main deck card or some sort of like other card you play next to him or play before him that says like, oh, can't be blocked, or oh, move a blocker out of the way?
oh, so like other things with Challenger, Thresh has Challenger.
Okay.
Um, there's like enough options, like, and you have enough get things out of his way if you need to, but you typically want him to almost die. Uh,
Okay. So you're saying in some cases you can get in for 25 damage the turn you play this.
yeah, yeah.
That's crazy.
And like worst case, they maybe blow. Uh, for reference, the like go-to removal spell at fast speed was also in Shadow Isles, and it's 6 mana now. It used to be 7 mana. So like
So they buffed it.
hard removal is not super easy to come by, especially when this card first came out. So they
Okay.
might have to spend as much on their turn to get rid of.
All right. I feel like I want to say broken, but I feel like because I don't have the full picture, and because this guy's expensive, and because um it takes your entire turn to cast him, like what are you doing alongside this guy? I feel like I'm gonna go with strong but not broken.
All right, I'm going to show you one more card, and I want to see if this affects your brain.
Okay,
So this
let's
is
see.
a Shadow Isle spell called Atrocity. Fast speed. Kill an ally, deal damage equal to its power to anything.
Okay, so you can kill Ledros and then deal 10 to the Nexus.
Yep.
Okay, I mean,
Or if you have something else on the field, you can sack that if it has more than 10 attack for.
okay, so with the context of this card, that might put me over the edge to broken because like yeah, that's 25 damage. I mean, it's across 2 turns, I guess, but yeah, I'll change my answer to broken.
Card's not great.
Oh, Jesus.
I did bait you a little bit there. Yeah, There's like definitely matchups and like games where sometimes they just need to put their whole turn into getting rid of Ledros when he's attacking, and like seeing him drop every time, you're just like, man, I gotta keep removing this thing. Any like infinite threat like that, kind of annoying to deal with, but it is taking your entire turn each time. No, but it is such a fun card to use though. Like, ah, I've played so many games with it. It's fantastic. Even if it's bad, it's fantastic. Yeah, so 6 mana, considerably less already, and 4 order, uh, 8 might, which is insanely big. Commander Ledro says, as you play me, you can kill any number of friendly units as an additional cost. Reduce my cost by 1 order for each killed this way. It has deflect, which means your opponent has to pay to recycle a rune if they want to target it, and it can gank between battlefields. Man, this card is a lot. I think this is like crazy strong. The fact that it has the built-in defense is nice. Ganking on any card is already really strong. The fact that it has 8 power for 6, sure you're gonna pay the 4 or sacrifice 4, but like who really cares at that point? I just think this is like a really strong card. I don't think it's. I don't think this is broken, do I? No, I think this is just like the very high end of strong. Uh, I'd imagine only really Victor can make full use of this. But like in Victor, I think this is crazy. You'd be like insane not to play this.
So, I mean, I gotta put aside my bias here. I think the card is strong. I agree. I don't think it's broken. I think it's pretty appropriately costed, especially like
Mm.
with the cool design element of like reducing its power cost is really nice. I think if you ask the community at large, they would say mid probably. With that niche playability in Victor. I, however,
The
am a
community at
big
large thought that Solemn Judgment was bad, and you they can be wrong.
that's very true. That's very, very true. Um, I would say strong for sure. Like I think this card can solve a lot of Victor's problems with certain matchups. Like Kaisa, for example. Like if you can play a unit that has more than 6 might against Kaisa, they have a really hard time removing it. Not even to
Yeah.
mention like the deflect that makes it even harder to deal with. So that's like been a pretty big problematic matchup for traditional Victor decks.
Oh,
So
question real quick.
yeah,
The cards that target multiple times, they have to pay the deflect.
that is right. Yes, if a card
That's really
targets,
funny.
if they have a Cathian Rain and they want to target this, they have to recycle 4 extra runes. Yep,
Jesus. Okay.
yep. So that's one big benefit of it, right?
Mhm.
I will say it feels bad sometimes to like cast this thing and then like you're setting it up for the next turn, but it doesn't really do anything immediately. Although it puts a lot of pressure on the opponent because like, okay, there's this huge thing that's going to clobber my battlefield next turn, and getting rid of it with deflect is going to be a really hard thing to do.
Yeah.
So I like the card a lot. I would say it's strong. I think a lot of other people would say mid, but this is our video, so I'm gonna go ahead and say
Yeah,
strong.
I think we can both agree that we know the game best, especially me.
That's a bold statement. I want everyone to know I'm not associated with Axel Beats in any way. No, I'm just kidding. But
Sure, sure, sure.
no, I think this card's very strong. I gotta say, and maybe I'll convince everybody that we'll see.
Oh yeah, I have
Um,
my advocacy.
appreciate it,
Uh,
appreciate it.
all right, so our last card on my end is going to be Volibear. Which one is? Start off with his champion card. This is another Freljord card. Um, when Volibear came out, they added a new mechanic to Freljord called Storm Sigils. There's a bunch of cards that basically put something on your board that will reduce the cost of Titanic unit by 1 mana. So Titanic, it's anything that has a number on the card that's 8 or more. Could be the cost, the attack, or the health. But other cards will store up mana that you can spend for your big drops. So even though he's a 9 cost, you might get him out on like turn 6, turn 5, maybe if you're high rolling.
On play, you're gonna be playing your Relentless Storm spell 3 times,
That's
each
just going to be 4 damage to a random target.
to a random target. Okay. Each one targets a different random enemy or the enemy nexus if none. Okay. So, okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. And then level up round end. So basically the end of the turn, right?
Yep.
after you've dealt 50 plus damage. Okay, so this seems like a burn spell type of deck.
Uh, Not so much. A lot of big meatballs and just like you're hitting things for each time.
Okay, so it works for battle damage too then. Got it.
Yes. And like when you play him, like I said, that's already 12 damage
And it's damage that you can deal.
through spells, through combat, to players, to creatures, adding up.
Got it. Okay, got it. Cool. Um, all right, then we have our evolved Volibear with Overwhelm, so we have Trample, and then
The
on
classic
play,
9/11.
oh my god. And then on play or attack, we've got Relentless Storm 3 times again. Although, can you do that twice in a turn when you play and then when you attack with it?
Yep. If
Okay,
he's evolved when you play him, yes.
so you cast it 6 times basically. That's crazy.
Yeah.
Um,
Notably, he can't do that the first turn he's played because it has to see the round end to the turn.
got it.
So, but after you've flipped him once, the next volley bear that you play will be able to do both.
Got it. Okay. And then same thing, each one targets a different random enemy or nexus, and then all other allies have overwhelm. Okay, that seems pretty interesting.
So suddenly your whole meatball deck runs over the enemies.
Gotcha.
Um,
Okay.
and his champion spell, not the most relevant, but kind of cool.
Deal
And
4 to
art we get
all
in Riftbound.
units. Yeah, a lot of art here actually in Riftbound too. Deal 4 to all except Titanic. So you will deal to your own units that aren't Titanic, right?
Yep, but you probably don't have that many at this point.
Okay. Got it. So again, we come into the situation where like you're not casting this the same turn you play your boss, but like I mean to potentially get a board wipe of all like little weenies seems kind of good. I mean, I'm really drawn to the abilities of like on play deal a bunch of damage to a bunch of units, and then like if you overkill the units, you just deal it straight to the nexus. The fact that the volley bear levels up after 50 damage, like 50 damage sounds like a lot. I know you can do it to like creatures and other stuff like that. Um, so it feels like they
And
had to
not
put a
I've
high.
seen.
What was that?
And not I've seen 50 damage, just you've dealt.
Right, so it doesn't have to even be in play. Okay. Um, I know we're ramping to this. It's not necessarily screaming broken. Although maybe the evolved one, I mean, when you do get to cast that thing 6 times, that seems like it's going to be pretty much a board wipe. You know what? Since it's the last card in the video and it seems kind of strong, I'll take the limb and go with broken.
These cards were very, 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 very strong. I don't think they quite go into broken, but like super good. And like you see the difference I mean between him and Tryndamere, right? Where they're effectively the same cost in the same region. There's no reason to play the vanilla. But yeah, like the fact that he does something when yeah, exactly. His payoff for transforming is huge. Like everything gets overwhelmed. He gets the extra damage each time. Just like really cool card, and yeah, it's just very strong overall. Uh, it's like a ramp deck that deals with like aggro decks really effectively too, because everything has that AOE factor to it. So just it works really well. Uh, and like even if you're not ramping, Volibear might not transform by the time you can play him. So like maybe you want to wait an extra turn or whatever to play that. So it's fine. Yeah, just good. So I would say not quite broken, but very strong. So this is a 12 energy card for 2 body with 10 power. Super high numbers across the board. Has shield 3, which is super high. Tank, which is great. And when an opponent moves to a battlefield other than mine, you get to draw 1 card. So you're locking down 1 space, and if they interact with the other, you get a benefit. You can have other units here, it protects them, it protects itself. My big problem with this card is that it's 12 energy. Like, that seems pretty aggressive. Yeah. So even if you are ramping, like this is your whole turn. I could see this as maybe like your champion legend, but I wouldn't want to like ever draw this, if that makes sense. I don't think it's broken at all. probably mid to strong. Like it's again, it doesn't do anything when it enters either. You're playing your whole turn and then it doesn't do anything is the problem. Once it's established, sure. Um, but then like just the order card, the hidden kill something they draw two, they just traded yeah, 0 mana for your whole turn. I think this is like one of those the Lee Sin again. Where like I want it to be good, I want it to be cool, but I don't. I'm gonna go with mid. Yeah, we talked myself down from broken.
We started at the top, now we're here.
Yeah.
I think I would probably go decent.
Mm.
The funny thing is, like, yeah, in the beginning of like set one Riftbound testing, this card was nowhere to be seen in Volibear decks. They weren't actually playing it as a chosen champion. They're playing typically one copy of the red Volibear, which
Sure.
is a 9-drop, and on attack can clear out battlefields. So a little bit more of like a proactive card, where this is more of like a defensive card. It definitely
Still
is
doesn't do
rough.
anything when it actually gets played.
Right. It doesn't do anything when it's
Yeah.
played, and doesn't have that vital removal protection. Like, I could not imagine investing my entire turn, my entire mana pool, to just have this thing be killed by a 2-drop spell, right? That'd be crazy.
Yeah.
But however, this card is starting to see play in side decks because Dazzling Aurora, which is the card I think you're familiar with,
Mhm.
is picking up popularity, and this card is being side decked in those types of strategies as another like versatile unit selection off of Dazzling Aurora. So like when you can establish Aurora and then you can play this thing for 9 instead of 12 and start to like accumulate that crazy high mass of units, it's a little bit better. Funnily though, I think this card is going to be much better in multiplayer formats where there's 3 battlefields in play, because in
Yeah.
1v1 there's 2 battlefields, but in multiplayer there's 3 battlefields. So there's more opportunities for his ability to actually proc, where your opponents might move into opposite battlefields and then you get draws off of that. Still gonna have the weakness of like dying to removal, but I think for that reason I would say decent now that it's seeing side deck play. Otherwise I would have probably said weak.
Mm. Should have talked myself down further.
Hey, you know, man, the sick art sometimes it gives us the delusion of grandeur. But all right,
You
so
do need to
we
promise to show them the full art from Runeterra for this.
yeah, I'll definitely throw it up on screen here because it's a beauty.
Excellent.
Like, I gotta say, like, one of the things that draws me into this game, besides like the awesome gameplay, is like the art. I love League of Legends art. I love the character designs. Um, they do an absolutely beautiful job. But we have covered quite a few cards in this video, so I don't think we were too far off the mark. Axel, what are your thoughts?
I think you might have been better at judging them than I am, but I think it's cool to see how like the cards were reimagined between the two. There's like obviously like some overlap in what they wanted the design of that character, but it's interesting to see like the differences between them. And maybe like how they course corrected a bit from Runeterra to the Riftbound versions in a lot of cases.
I agree. Yeah, there were some cards that like seemed to like really strongly keep their identity, and then some cards that were just like, yeah, we're gonna completely turn the ship around and do something different with this.
We
But that's
cannot
totally
do
cool.
Lee Sin again.
Yeah, that was crazy. And yeah, wow, that I read that card and immediately could recognize that card is ridiculously broken.
Yeah,
But overall, I think we did a monumental task in today's video of like covering all these cards. I do want to thank you so much for your time. If you
my
guys are not
pleasure.
already following Axel, I'm going to drop all his links down in the description of this video. Definitely give him a follow. He's going to be doing more Riftbound content, which is going to be super cool to see. I look forward to working with him more. Axel, want to say goodbye to the people?
Thank you so much for having me on. Hope you guys enjoyed having me well. And maybe if you leave some comments, we can bully him in.
Oh boy, thanks for inviting that on, and we'll see you guys next time.